And welcome back to episode numero 10.
No, absolutely not.
What is 10 in Espanol?
Didn't you do like Duolingo for a while?
Yeah, but not numbers.
You had a 50-day streak in Spanish.
Yeah, but not numbers.
Okay, let's just count together. Uno,
Yeah,
dos,
I guess.
tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve,
Diez.
10.
Diaz is the last name. Anyways, ignoring that really sharp look that my co-host just gave me. Hey, welcome to episode 10, everybody. We are excited about today's episode. We are talking about the conversation of friendships and really dialing in on the idea of, do I even really need friends? And I'm joined, as always, with my one and only lovely co-host, Elizabeth Clyde.
Hey, hun.
How's it going?
It's going.
Made me so nervous I just stuttered there.
Stop.
Hey, caveat to today's episode, you are joining Elizabeth and Taylor on a very vulnerable season in our life. And this conversation is one that we just kind of argued about on a walk with our dog. And it is in a very sensitive season that we are in as a couple. And so we're fine, everybody.
We just figured we weren't alone in this season. So we're almost like verbally processing it together with you guys. Exactly.
So if during the conversation either one of us bursts out into tears, you know why.
It'll probably be Taylor.
Yeah, I'm an emote. I'm an emote.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
But we're talking about the conversation, do I even need friends? And as usual, it's impossible for us to talk about this and separate it from the concept or the structure, I guess, of ministry. So we're going to be tackling, do I even need friends in ministry, or can I do this thing in and of myself? So we're diving into that, talking about support networks and all of that fun kind of stuff. As usual, Liz, I have slam-packed our show notes with 5 segments.
I don't know why you make these outlines so intense. Like, just take something away, dang it.
I don't want us to. It's such good stuff, though, and I feel like each one of those plays an important part, and if you pull out one, you just...
Okay, well, then hurry up and get to the point. We're on the time limit.
Yeah, we are.
I am the timekeeper today.
Dang.
Not really, actually.
Well, we are filming this at night, and it's kind of...
And we're already like a week late.
Yeah, bedtime's come in, and
it's fine.
You guys have been eagerly waiting.
It was a crazy week.
It has been a crazy week. So thank you for taking time out of this. I know the podcast sometimes feels like my thing that I'm pushing on us, and sometimes it feels like your thing that you're pushing on us.
But it's really our thing. We push on each other.
Yes, 50. So the first thing I want us to jump into is, let's talk about the state of loneliness in ministry. So according to Barna Research, 70% of pastors report that they do not have a close friend. Barna is this organization that does all kinds of research and surveys, and they said 70% of pastors that they surveyed report not having a close friend. What do you think about that?
Is that like a close friend in ministry or a close friend just in general?
Didn't specify, but it doesn't sound like it was limited to just ministry. So I wonder if they're, taking old high school friends or things like that into mind. Do you think that holds true?
I do. It's hard because just take ministry out of it. It's hard to have a close friend, like in a regular sense, versus ministers seems to get put on a pedestal, sometimes good and bad. And I feel like even harder to be vulnerable because having the stigma as minister is the stigma of either having all the right answers or this perfect facade, or you go opposite of everyone just hates anyone involved in the church because they think they're fake.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. There definitely does feel like there is that stigma that's around leadership when it comes to loneliness, because people always say it's lonely at the top. And we've referenced this, I think actually in episode 2, I think I said, people say loneliness is only at the top, but I would say it's lonely at the bottom and in the middle and in all the in-betweens. Mm-hmm. But there is this thing that like pastors are exempt to this kind of like stuff that like plagues the rest of humanity, that they're somehow, they got that little red phone, right? And they're just able to not suffer from the things that other humans on the earth suffer with. But it really does play loneliness really does play quite an impact on not only your physical health, which we'll talk about a little bit later because I love that kind of stuff, talking about that. But it definitely plays a part on your spiritual health as well. So as a person in ministry, you served at one time a role as the assistant site director and then the site director essentially of an extension site that our church had for Southeastern University.
Mm-hmm.
And in your current capacity or even past capacities as a pastoral spouse, have you ever felt isolated in your role in that season?
I feel like this season is the most isolating role, really, because when I worked for the church, I had a team I was over. And so even though I was over them, I still had that relationship with them. And then when you were in worship pastoring and when you were in associate pastoring at a campus, we had our people. You know what I mean? And we got to care for our people. But now with you being the creative director on the central role, like in the central team, like, yes, there's other like ministry spouses, but I'm not really close with any of them because we all have our own lives. And I think that's another reason why it's hard to get genuine friendships in ministry, because everyone just assumes everyone else is busy. And a lot of the times they are. You know what I mean? And I'm the type, and it's me, but I'm the type of person, once I reach out to you 3 times, then I'm like, all right, well, you can reach out to me. And so then that's just me. It's not the perfect, but you know what I mean? Like, I was like, well, I've tried to connect with you and it's just not working, so I'll stop now. So it's kind of like, that's just where I'm at. Like, I was just kind of, well, and we'll talk a little bit more, but like on the walk, I was like, we don't have ministry friends. So that's just where we're at.
That makes sense.
And we do have friends, but I'm talking about like super close, but I guess we'll organically talk about that.
Yeah, well, we talk about it a lot, but one of my favorite seasons, and you've said it as one of your favorite seasons too, back in the day, was the season that we were younger adults. I was in a worship pastor capacity at that time, and after church, we would always just invite a bunch of the band people over to the house. And I remember times where, they were so unstructured that there were times where literally we would start watching a movie and everybody would be asleep on the floor. Like, someone would sleep on the couch, someone would sleep on the floor. There's other times where there would be something playing on TV, but you'd have that little pocket of people watching that, but then other people would be like talking about this intense financial thing or budgeting thing or some relational terrible thing that's happened in their life at the kitchen island. And that was always really fun seasons. And those always felt very life-giving, very refreshing. So yeah, it's definitely real, I will say, from my perspective too. Your biggest critique as of 45 minutes ago, I think 30 minutes ago when we were on our walk, was that I don't push too much into relationships with people. And it's true, I don't. I'm much more, interestingly enough, Anthony and I were talking about this in the office today.
Anthony is his coworker.
Yeah. And he was mentioning, we're just talking about how couples are different a lot of times. And you mentioned that I don't push too much into relationships. And I don't. I'm an introvert. You're an extrovert. And that's not making excuses for why we do the stuff that we do, but that's just the bend, That's just the lean. So it's good stuff. It's definitely real, whether you're in ministry or whether you're not. There's just a lack, I think, of friendships and relationships that we have. Let's talk about the biblical foundation for community, right? Because we're believers.
On days that end in Y. Yeah.
I was wondering what you're going to say. Sometimes I like to just like dangle things in front of you and then just see what Liz comes up with.
Did I pass your test with
You did,
random?
with flying colors,
Okay,
as
good.
usual. A biblical foundation for community. So as believers, we always like to base everything on the Bible. And so why don't you read to us Hebrews 10, 24 and 25? Because I think this really drives this point home up under segment 2.
Mm-hmm. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. So this obviously encourages community and support, which is funny because you had this written before the walk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the walk, I'm like, we should invite our neighbors over for dinner next week. And then what did you say?
No.
Interesting. Not neglecting to meet together. Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, this is especially, I'll be honest, in a season like this where it is, whenever I feel like myself or you are threatened, this is a really vague thing. Like, this can be just whatever. But if I ever feel like there's tension for those, I will withdraw us both. I think this is speaking to like the protective nature, just that I have. But I will pull us close together, and I won't let anything penetrate that little whatever. Like, you're not coming through. Like, this is us. Like, emotions are in check. Schedules are in check. We're not doing anything. We're not hanging out with anybody. Don't talk to anybody. Don't look at. Don't touch anything. No, but I think that's kind of what I do. And so, especially in a season like this, where it's a little bit tougher, I am extra faulty in that. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very closed with that. But in men's ministry, they always talk about that verse in Proverbs, iron sharpening iron. And I think that is one of the great things that you forfeit when you don't hang out with people. Our neighbors aren't believers. They don't know Jesus. They're not going to benefit our life in any way. But they do have something to give us. And I don't know what that is. But
we have something to also give them.
Yeah. So when we don't do this, preaching to the choir, myself, hey-yo.
Because, even non-believers, I feel like we all need community.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Them even more so, I would say, because there's not that collection of positive people that are surrounding them. So how can iron sharpen iron? Talking about sharpening swords and junk, but how can they get better because of us, and how can we get better because of them? So, yeah, I think it's pretty important. What do you think? Do you have any like biblical examples that show the need for community, or maybe anything that you think the Bible specifically, on the top of your dome, I'm just kind of calling it out of you, but anything that the Bible teaches us about the value in community in ministry?
So it's kind of community. My first thought goes to like David and Jonathan, like the armor bearers.
So good.
In a sense, because like you need each other. Not saying like one's better than the other, but like just that close relationship of brotherhood and having each other's back. Obviously, like Jesus and his disciples. Yeah, you got any examples off the top of your head?
No, those are good.
Moses and Aaron.
Moses and Aaron that's always one of my favorites, just because for the longest time I carried an armor bearer calling. And so the fact that Aaron is literally holding up Moses' arms as they fight this battle, and the Bible says that as long as he held his arms up, they were victorious. I always loved that. And I always took a personal connection to that. Like, I'm going to hold up my pastor's arms, and he's always going to be like visionary and all this kind of stuff.
Do you think that's why, and this is probably going a little off, like you're feeling a little stagnant at work because you're not in that armor bearer role necessarily?
I was thinking about that. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's that. I don't know. I'm not sure if that was a season or not. We always talk about seasons, and they always have a beginning and an end. And so I don't know if that is so much of a season or if that's a calling. I always said it was a calling because I was always okay being a number two and sitting in that second chair and not feeling like I've got to be the boss. So now I'm not so much in that, like explicitly, like to where I'm like I'm not holding up our lead pastor's arms metaphorically. Like, he's got, executive pastors, and I'm just playing more of a support role. But it could play into it. That could definitely add to that shift. Could definitely bring some funky feelings, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because the person you were the armor bearer to were like our closest friends. So I think that's always, not saying like, we lived, breathed, because we've talked about them before. We did not like pine, live, breathe, and like own their friendship. I mean, when they transitioned, left a big hole. Not like hole, but like, it stunk. And so,
Definitely, yeah. You can't separate that from that was a pastor relationship, but also that was a friendship, right? And so that's definitely huge.
and I've tried to like initiate it with like other couples in the church and whatnot, thinking like, okay, this is going to be it. This is going to be our people. Like, this is going to be, the relationship like we've been looking after. And I mean, granted, I don't tell them like, hey, I'm like testing you guys out.
I'm just
Trying to
test
see if
driving
like
you.
you guys want to be our couple BFFs. But I mean, but that's kind of like what you do, and so it's just always like, and it's hard to compare one relationship to the other, but it's just hard because like, especially when I like am friends with someone, I give everything, and it's so hard to find
Yeah.
like when you're a giver and you normally don't receive as much back. That's like hard to pill to swallow. But then like with a relationship you love and like you just know it works, you know the faults, you know the ins and outs and stuff, so it's hard to start and cultivate a whole new relationship like
It
that.
is. And I think that what you described as like that one takes time, and that one takes small moments. We talked about the last week of vulnerability that is rewarded with attention and affirmation. And then next time in a different interaction, there's a little bit more vulnerability, and that's awarded with attention and affirmation. And I think that continues on, and that's why those friendships and even as you're listening to this, like you have those people, I'm sure, that you have these connections with that really know you and you know them. And if you think about it like you play it back, it's like a feedback loop, or not a feedback loop necessarily. It's more of something that's grown, right? So it started and you've shared a little bit, they've shared a little bit, and that kind of has continued. And soon you've got some deep roots with them, man. Mm-hmm. You definitely do. All right, well, let's talk about something. Let's shift gears into more of the psychological benefits that come from having a support network. And this is where it gets really cool for me. I'm such a nerd when it comes to like health stats and medical stats.
You gonna give us a stat?
The American Psychological Association. Shut up.
So yes, we're gonna have a stat.
I don't necessarily have a stat, but I will tell you that the American Psychological Association emphasizes that social support mitigates stress. So if you are in Target buying the Stress Less gummies, like I may or may not have done for you last week, and you're buying these and you're popping them like constantly throughout your day, and you have no friends and no support network, maybe you could look at this in addition to helping you curb the stress less gummies. Mother Teresa has this quote, though. I love this. She said, "Loneliness and the feeling of being unwanted is the most terrible poverty." Now, it's kind of crazy. Like, from what I understand, she lived with like the completely impoverished children of the nation that she was in. And she said loneliness and the fear of being unwanted, or the feeling of being unwanted, is the most terrible poverty. What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, because and we'll go into detail another time. I know you guys are like, what the frick happened to you? But last week when we were facing the stress, the reason why you bought the Stress Less gummies, I took notes of all vulnerability podcasts. And so I decided to text a dozen people. Some of them are like, my like 2 closest friends, but other people just like other staff in the church and whatnot. You good, fam? He's dying. I'm trying to be vulnerable and he's dying.
Searching frantically for that mute button.
And
I found it at the last second.
Oh. You done?
Please continue.
All right, cool. But so I started like texting a dozen people like updates, pretty much like please pray.
Yeah.
This is happening today, because it was like a week long like process, like storm I guess we were going through, and now we're living with the aftermath of the storm. Is really the best way to describe it. But I just texted them day by day, and so it made me. Now, granted, my storm did not change whatsoever, but it helped me feel not so alone, and having that support network, even if like, we like some people, like some were like are like senior, like pastor's wife. Like, you know, I knew she would pray for us, even though we may not be the closest.
Sure.
But I was like, all right, I need all the support and prayer I can get. And I
Yeah.
know these people will pray for me. So, I mean, just having them, knowing like they're in my corner praying, it helped my psyche a lot.
Definitely. And I think it's interesting. She said loneliness and the feeling of being unwanted. I think when difficult things, bad things happen to you, and they happen to everybody, if you're listening to this and you've never had a bad situation in a storm in your life, get ready because it's coming. Or you're just getting out of it. But it can almost make you feel unwanted, and you can almost feel like a burden to ask for help and to ask for prayer. So I can certainly see how somebody who's dealing with a struggle in their life doesn't want to be open with people like that, because you don't want to impose.
Well, with me personally, I'm a very private person
Sure.
when it comes to like
I'm the same way.
vulnerability. And so I really didn't want people to know how bad I was hurting and how devastated I was.
Sure.
You want to put your best foot forward. You want people to know you're strong. Even like my two closest friends, like they had the most heads up out of everyone. But even then, it took me probably like a while to even open up to them. And I'm like, do I include them in the prayer in every single update too? Like, so pretty much I just had like a big prayer team on my side, which once again,
You sure did.
I sure did. Didn't change my storm, but it helped me face it a little stronger.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, and I think that is one benefit, to physically have people that you can, to text people and physically have them next to you in scary things and in difficult things. I think that is for sure one of the benefits. The physical benefits of social connections and good mental health are really, really crucial. There's proven links that include lower rates of anxiety and depression, higher self-esteem, greater empathy with people, and more trusting and cooperative relationships. So like there's medical things that people, like physical things that people are tracking because of social connections. It's pretty wild. You got strong, healthy relationships that can also strengthen your immune system from just recovering from diseases, which is pretty wild, and even lengthen your life, which is like, what?
And you're all about lengthening your life right now.
I am, yeah. But even like recovering from diseases, how you think about it and you're like, how can having friends like help you recover from these things? But there's these studies that prove that. It's pretty wild. So how do you think, Liz, friendships can help emotionally and mentally in the ministry?
Yeah, so I liked how you put it earlier about just kind of being intentional and letting it build up, because the reality is, like, we had a 10-year friendship that transitioned away, so it's not going to replace a 10-year friendship. And
Overnight.
yes, not even, it's been a year, but I mean, we still love them. We connect with them. Like, I was texting them update and they were praying for me and checking on me, like, but it's not the same as like physically having that relationship there, where like it's the people we can be like, what kind of bored? Let's just go over to their house because we know it'll be fine. Like, we don't, like, it's such a special to have those friends we know we cannot impose on, and vice versa. You know what I mean? That's really special.
Yeah.
But I mean, I liked how you said be intentional and don't be like me, where if you reach out 3 times and you're like, all right, we're done. I'm getting a little better at that, but I just, it's just a pet peeve. Like, we should hang out. I was like, well, I've been trying to hang out with you like 5 times, like getting together, and your schedule doesn't allow it. So you let me know, okay, boo boo?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of tough.
So do you have any steps for helping build this network?
Yeah, let's jump into that. Let's switch over and talk about some practical steps for building, I guess, how to make friends. Making Friends 101.
Gosh, if we cracked the code.
Why is this so hard?
I don't know. Well, I feel like with me, I could talk to anyone, but I can talk to anyone on the surface level. It's really hard for me to let people in. But more specifically, let's talk about you. Like, why is it so hard for you? Because I want to hang out with everyone all the time. Like, we have like our small little group of like friends. They're not like our ministry.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like that's really what like I'm craving in this season that I feel like we're missing is we do not have another couple in ministry that we can like talk to and cry with and laugh with. And, like it's just like working in the ministry is just different, And we have so many great people on our church, but I just feel like none of them has, not yet maybe, but like just kind of clicked in that whatever I'm looking for. I don't even know what I'm looking for. But we do have friends.
Yes.
And you don't want to hang out with people.
No, there's a WebMD article literally called How to Make New Friends.
That's funny.
WebMD.
Because I'm always like, I was like, Taylor,
That's
do you want to hang out with
insane.
these people? Nah. Do you want to go to this thing?
That's literally
No.
what it says. It's bold letters, how to start a friendship. Friendships take time, but you can take steps to spark a relationship and nurture a connection. You know what number 1 is?
Go hang
Say
out.
yes.
Say yes, Taylor.
When you're invited to a gathering or event, accept the invitation. Return the favor by asking them somewhere, by inviting them somewhere. Extend your own invitations and ask a friend or acquaintance to get coffee or lunch.
Taylor doesn't even want to have our birthday party next month for his birthday and invite like friends over.
That's different though. Like that, I like celebrating with friends, but I don't like being the center of attention.
Well, you don't want to have a dinner party either.
Because it's for my birthday.
Well, I mean,
It's
just saying
weird.
like a random, like we could have a dinner on a Tuesday.
It's true. So some practical steps. You asked me why it's so hard for me to make friends. I probably don't say yes enough. Mm-hmm. I definitely do not put myself out there in those kind of things. I don't invite myself places. And I limit the people who I spend time with to those who can almost exclusively add value to my life.
That's tough.
If we want to be really honest, I boiled that down for myself a little bit ago, and that was a interesting self-discovery.
Mine big one is it's hard for me to open up and I'll like size someone up really quickly. Like if I feel like I'm going to give more in this relationship than you. So I guess it's similar to you. Like this is not going to be an even relationship. So I don't want to pursue this or this is.
Man, we're terrible.
We're honest right now. And it's so hard. Like we have great friends, but like we don't have like super close friends.
Yeah.
Like we don't have our ride or dies right now. And I think that's okay. I think that's just a season. And I feel, and the Lord will guide us.
It's true. I'm going to tell you how to fix it though.
Okay, yeah. Like it's going to be this easy.
Mm-hmm. In 3 simple steps. You ready? Mm-hmm. Number 1, you got to be intentional. You have to take time to cultivate relationships.
Okay.
They're not just going to happen overnight. They're not just going to come to you all the time.
See, I'm good at being intentional.
Okay, perfect. So it's going to happen for you. It's going to happen for you soon.
What's step 2?
So be intentional. Then you've got to be transparent.
Nope.
And if you need information on this, guys, go back and listen to episode 9 where we talk about intimacy versus transparent.
Yeah, I struggle with
vulnerability. You have to be transparent. Authenticity breeds trust. I have no issues sharing my entire life struggles with any person that I meet.
And I have no issues in being intentional. Okay.
This is perfect.
Together.
This is happening
What's
for
number
us.
3?
Okay.
What's number 3?
Then finally, don't just take. You've got to give support to others as well. And I think that this is something that I see a lot in our generation. We are like soul suckers. We will drain our friends of everything and we won't openly and freely give to them. We won't sacrifice a whole lot. I see it all the time. People that just take, relationally speaking, and there's never that output. There's never that sacrifice, never the investment into the other person that kind of balances the scales. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do to be more intentional? Because at the moment, as a couple, we are stuck at step 1.
I don't know. I didn't come here for therapy, Liz. I came to give therapy. Oh.
That don't make any sense. Don't make any sense at all.
So yeah, and I think it's different too. I think it's easier in some aspects in ministry because in my position the other day, I cold emailed a church in Midwest
Did they ever
somewhere.
email you back?
They did, yeah. They talked about possibly meeting up in like mid-September. Not meeting up, but like
Zooming up.
Yeah, Google Meet, man. Forget Zoom.
Okay. Well, it's all the same
I'm
thing.
teasing. But yeah, so I think it's sometimes easier for those in like a ministry context because you can just you can blame it on your position, and you can be like, hey, I'm the whatever at this church. Like I saw that you're the me at that church, so let's
I mean, yeah, it gives the open door for sure, but
Right.
it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna like cultivate a relationship because so many
no, yeah.
times, we meet up with people, but it's hard for us to cultivate a relationship.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But we have our small group starting soon.
We do.
In a couple weeks, so I feel like that's gonna really help us.
Not our small group though, love.
Well, we're the hosts.
Yeah.
So it's like a collective small group.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's gonna be super nice.
So we're excited because we honestly we got like not burnt out of leading small groups, but a little bit after doing it for so many years. So we are taking a step back, and we will be providing the space for the group to meet and still attending the group, but someone else is going to be the leader, and we're very excited to watch them grow.
I'm very happy to just mop and clean toilets and then let somebody else lead the conversation.
And I'm going to bake cookies for them too.
Gosh.
It's going to be a great day.
Hosting.
We're going to be the hostess with the mostest.
Gosh.
Just maybe not the mostest friends.
But they're all going to come to us, and no one's going to know we're struggling except for the 6 listeners we get a week on our podcast.
Right. And
Don't tell anybody, guys.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. We just like looked at each other.
All right, let's close it up. Eugene Peterson has a book called A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. He says this: relationships are the engines of life. I like that. Relationships are the engines of life. So as we close up, last kind of little bit of questions. What is you were pushing me on this, but admittedly I'm terrible at making friends, and I think that you're better. Give us one action step that our listeners can take this week to improve their support network. If you had to boil down a simple, tangible, practical piece of advice, what's one thing you could tell them that they can take away this week to improve their social network?
Reach out for the 4th and 5th time if you're like me. Because,
enough.
I mean, you just have to, and I struggle at continuing to pursue a relationship. Like I said, like if I feel like it's not going to be an even
Right.
battle, like I was like, all right, I reached out twice now. Until you reach out to me twice, I'm not going to reach out again.
Gosh,
But
yeah.
I mean, if you feel like that relationship would be valuable, and there's like some people who, like, you don't want them to suck the soul out of you
Right.
and whatnot. But I don't know. Don't assume what someone else is thinking as well. Like, like, oh, they don't really care. They don't want to make time for me. No, they could literally just be going through a lot, and you don't know because you're not that close yet.
And you won't know that until you keep pushing.
And you may not ever know that because they could be like me and literally still refuse to open up completely with people.
That's true. But they're worth it because I know you. And even though you're a tough little clam to crack, that pearl is worth it. You're a pretty incredible person.
Pearls, not clams.
Oh, crap.
Is that
metaphor just fell apart.
We don't really do seafood, so I'll give you a pass.
Anyways, I thought that was good.
It was, I mean, you still hit it. You didn't hit a home run, but you hit the ball.
Yeah. Bases reloaded.
Okay, continue. We got to close it.
Oh, tough stuff. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining us for this conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, or wherever you're streaming this right now, because we are everywhere. Right, Liz?
I mean, I guess. I don't really know the ins and outs. I just show up and record.
Everywhere. So also be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. I am at Taylor Clyde, and that is at Elizabeth P. Clyde. She's always posting some fun cake stuff, and I'm always posting a picture of me in the kayak. So you never know
what you're gonna get. Well, I guess they do know.
Yeah. I was trying to say that.
Okay.
But thanks for joining us again for this,
It's
you
bedtime.
guys. We will see you in the next episode as we talk about some more cool stuff. Until next time, have fun, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.